In this video, I will be going over the Vet Resources Trello Board, what your functions will be as interns in the newsletter department using the Vet Resources Trello Board, and just some other features that may be helpful to know. So this Trello is used by interns from all different departments to draft articles to be published on the Vantage Point blog that highlight groups that are providing a resource specifically to veterans or their families. So our role as a newsletter department, you will not necessarily be writing or editing any of these drafts, but there will be the possibility that you will be contributing to finding specific resources. So first, I'm going to go over the general overview of what the board looks like and some specific functions and tabs that you should know about. So first off, when a resource comes in, it's going to be put into the inbox section. So there's at different parts of these tabs, there will be important messages to look over. And so in the inbox section, this will just give you an overview of what the guidelines are for resources that we can create write-ups on. So this is always something that I would recommend viewing and being familiar with, especially if or when you are able to add or approve resources. So this is always there as a reminder. Again, I recommend looking over that. So when a resource comes in, or if you're submitting a resource, you'll submit it to the inbox section. So this is unapproved cards right here. And so I have this one here, and let's say you want to add it. So you enter a title for the card, the Patriot Project, and you can go in and add more details. So we recommend always finding a photo that could be used for a graphic in the future, if it's approved, putting a link to their website, if you think it is an organization that will, again, be approved, putting a brief little blurb about what specifically they do that relates to veterans. So some organizations provide other resources, but we want to focus only on their programs that are specifically helping veterans or their families. And the last thing that's really important is you want to put your name at the bottom. This way, if we have any questions, we'll know who to contact and who to get in touch with about why you submitted this or anything else that might be needed. So when you do that, it's also really important we use labels. And so when it's in the inbox, this one isn't yet labeled, but you're going to want to label it awaiting approval. This way, other interns or your department head will know that this is something that needs to be looked at. Yeah, and so let's just say that this one is approved. So once I approve it, again, this is just a test, so I haven't actually looked over it. What you're going to do is move it to the Approved in Progress tab, and then just take off that label. So just remove the awaiting approval label, and then it's all set. And then there's some other tabs in here that are important to know if there's an editor, writer, but you're not going to need to worry about that. So that's kind of the extent of what you'll be doing is first adding a resource to be approved. And then you may also, in the future, once you get to know this process better, be asked to actually start approving resources that you did not submit. So if you submitted a resource, one of your fellow interns or the DH or anyone else that has the ability to approve will be approving it. You won't be approving your own, just to double check, but you will be potentially in the future be able to approve others. So that's just how you add and approve. Again, please, it's super important to read the guidelines for what an organization can be, what they can do, what they can't do before approving. And yeah, and so I'll go over the rest of the Trello board just so you can get a feel for what the rest of it, the function does, and the bigger scope of things. But this isn't necessarily something that you need to worry too much about. Basically, once it goes into the Approved or In Progress tab, it'll stay there until it has a writer, editor, and graphic designer. And then the writer and editor will go back and forth. If it's ready for editor review, they'll move it to that tab. If the editor finished editing that draft, they'll move it back to in progress until the writer and editor agree upon a draft that they feel is could be a final one. Then it goes to waiting for graphics if it doesn't have graphics. And then finally, in the stage, it'll go to for VA review. And this is where the DHs will go in and approve final drafts, and VA staff will look it over. Yes, and so that is how you use the Vet Resources Trello board. There is one other thing that I think it's important to know. If you're looking at approving a resource and you're not quite sure where it goes, maybe you think the scale might not be big enough, you're unsure, there's a list over on the left called Unsure for Review of DHs. Go ahead and pop it in there. Again, make sure it has the correct label. We'll put that back on for awaiting approval. And the DHs will go through this list and come to a decision. If you believe that the resource is not acceptable under this set out guidelines, then you'll move it to the can't use. And that's if there's just a really big obvious issue with it. For example, if part of the specific veteran programs includes donations, or if that includes lobbying efforts, we can't publish articles on either of those things, for example. So you put that in the can't use. But if you are unsure, just put it in the unsure pile. And that is all for this. There's some other tabs, but you don't really need to worry about them too much. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask your DH at your meeting or anything else. Thanks so much and good luck.